Good evening. My name is Amber Norris, and tonight's presentation is over a recent education innovation known as flipped instruction. This is considered to be a pilot program at Community School District consisting of 80 students. Each student will receive an iPad and then are allowed to go home and use that iPad for viewing lectures on YouTube made by the instructor. That is considered their homework, where the classroom time the following day will be spent on reinforcement activities to enhance the learning which just occurred viewing the lecture. Research has been done in this field, and multimedia and video use of streaming information to people, whether it be students or community members in third world countries, have been quite successful. And so Community ISD is really looking forward to this new innovative approach to education for their 2012-2013 school district. I interviewed Dr. Cole McClendon, which is the superintendent at Community ISD, to kind of look at why he has been considered to be the successful person or the successful leader in implementing this program in their school district. Just some information about Dr. McClendon. Dr. McClendon acquired his BS in College Station in Agricultural Sciences. His ED was his Master's in Education was in Agriculture Education, both from College Station as well. And his doctorate in education came from Texas A&M Commerce, where it was is considered to be in educational leadership. Dr. McClendon is married with a family of two children, one at 17 and one at 12. He is considered to be a third-generation cattle producer in Lavon, Texas, where the community school district resides. As far as his professional employment, Dr. McClendon is currently the superintendent for Community ISD, and has had, as you can see in this slide, has had numerous positions, whether it be assistant superintendent at both Wiley ISD and Community ISD, as well as a principal and assistant principals at Wiley ISD and Princeton ISD. From 1992 to 98, Dr. McClendon served as an agri-science teacher in community, and from 91 to 92, while working on his master's, he served as a graduate teaching assistant. So you can see that he has been actively involved in both curriculum, data, testing, and just simple classroom instruction, whether it be in multiple disciplines and in multiple capacities. I think that Dr. McClendon plays a great role in the acting change agent for this innovative approach, largely because he's a familiar face within the community school district. Whether he reiterated his position as both an assistant principal, ag science teacher, an assistant superintendent there, an ag science teacher, as well as a superintendent. He is constantly rechanging his position or opinion as an opinion leader in education. In some sense, he's considered to be the opinion leader for that community. Not so much in flipped instruction, but can play, and it's interesting that he can play both an opinion leader in education and yet a change agent for flipped instruction. Largely because the community, I think, values and trusts his opinion. He is homegrown and shows a great drive and passion for bettering the students of that school district, which comes across as very genuine and sincere when he's visiting with the community. His professional objective or philosophy on education kind of incorporates the fact that he is considered a servant leader. He strives to incorporate both relevance and rigor in the classroom, while encouraging both communication and collaboration both among students as well as faculty. He also is all about student-centered learning, and I think given those objectives and philosophy behind education, once again makes him a strong change agent perspective. Just to give you a little bit of insight of what kind of person he is, Here's a picture of Dr. McClendon going to school for the day. He was actually given a mock schedule, and that schedule ranged anywhere from calculus to agriculture science classes. And he signed up as an 11th grader and literally went to school for the day. Because of that, he felt that it gave him great insight to where the students were on a daily basis, what kind of amount of information they were being fed daily, what they were having to juggle as far as the coursework and the at-home work. And so he was able to see that it wasn't necessarily that there was a problem or something that needed to be changed, but he did see a way for utilizing the technology. So getting with his staff, he felt that, in agreement with some of his staff members who are currently, like for instance the curriculum director of Community ISD, felt that it was a time for change as far as the technology in the classroom and incorporating that technology. So the pilot program of the flipped schedule was invented. The pilot program advantages is it is an innovative teaching framework that allows for new learning to occur, increased productivity, meaning that the classroom time can be spent more for instructional activities and reinforcement rather than the grind of the daily lecture. It does challenge the students, which I think they rise to that occasion because it is new and innovative. It does decrease the dropout rate. I think holding their attention, giving them another reason to come to school for the probably the hands-on activity that occurs in the classroom and not that, like we talked about, the daily lecture and monotony of that. It also gives the students a readiness for both college and career. So what does a flipped schedule look like? Well, in this case, in their pilot program, they have designed it to where the student will watch a lecture either the evening before or the teacher will assign it that evening, allowing the classroom time to be spent more for question and answer, perhaps things like jigsaw, problem solving, think, pair, share, reinforcement activities of those nature. Now they have designed this to incorporate 4 different disciplines. Just some information about the cost of the program. The district is investing $85,000. The students, the investment is relatively low of $50. The students are, because not every student can be a part of this right off the beginning simply because of technology restraints, the students are selected based off of a lottery system. So every student's name goes into the lottery and then their names are drawn. And if the student gets selected, then they are sent a letter, an acceptance letter into the program in which the student has X amount of days to reply back and send the $50 charge. And that $50 is simply designed to help with the maintenance on the iPads as well as any applications that need to be purchased. Additionally, the iPads, though, can be used as reinforcement activities themselves. For example, flashcards can be designed, quizzes can be designed on them and used by the students as well. I think it's a wonderful idea. I've done a little bit of research in this field and saw that not only were people far more successful after watching a video and then applying the skills that they learned, but it also broke barriers such as social, economic barriers that oftentimes can be encountered. For example, if a student has no prior knowledge because it's not something their culture or their family were involved in, they now can watch it on video and attain some sort of prior knowledge going into the skill set, and I just think that's a wonderful asset. And in order to kind of start the framework or the groundwork on this, a flowchart was created. CISD, the first thing they had to do was to sell this to the school board and to sell this to the community. So that, of course, required lots of research, attending of workshops, developing surveys of students to see, the interest for such a activity, and also purchasing the technology. So you can kind of see the flow chart that was followed by Dr. McClendon's staff. In a sense, after the staff did the research, the purchasing of the material, the surveys, they more or less became the opinion leaders, and Dr. McClendon was designed to be the change agent. As you can see, I felt like that would have been successful or what success was a result. Because he was locally grown, he knows the system as far as the technology that's going to be involved, the design and the teachers that will be involved. He also speaks the language on both the educational aspect as well as the community level type of language. I think I read recently in the book where sometimes when you're talking about a change and trying to convince others of change, you really don't want to you don't want to talk over their head, and you just, sometimes it's important just to get to the point and discuss the problem at hand, what needs to be fixed. He understands the norms of the community, identifies with both the district's focus and goals as far as equal education for all, as well as incorporating new ideas for students. He looks at his educational goals or his philosophy on education and incorporates that. He's also a familiar figure. In other words, he's not only taught there, he grew up in the community, he has been involved in the administration end of things for several years. So as he is a familiar figure, he's been constantly redefining his role through previous employment as well as community activities and through local organizations there. Now, after interviewing Dr. McClendon, I kind of had a few questions on the effectiveness. And I think that in some sense they probably caught him by surprise because he didn't expect the science teacher in me to come out with so many, well, what about this and how are you going to test this? So after discussing with him or critiquing with him this pilot program, I think he himself came up with new ideas as to the use of the program. So one of the first questions I had for him is, tell me about the testing. How are we going to test the effectiveness of the program? One thing he suggested is that there could be pre-test and pre-test and post-test involved, testing each objective. That may be not only limited to the classroom itself, but to the control group to find out, how did they score on these objectives. We can take it one step further and do a final data analysis of each one of those objectives and see overall, did students who had acquired prior learning on the topic before lecture advance better than those students who did not. Another thing that we talked about is how else can you use this. For example, it would be a shame just to let these lectures lie limited to the students who had iPads. And because the videos are on YouTube, or would be a YouTube type situation, parents or other students who are not involved in the program could access these lectures. That might be something that if we're doing testing the effectiveness, we want to wait until to keep variations from occurring in our experiment. We might wait until after the testing is done to release that information to the students and parents so that you don't tamper or validate and make invalid any kind of data that you're gathering on testing objectives. But in a sense, it could be a great opportunity for, say for example, a parent who is needing to tutor their child in a calculus equation and has no earthly idea the steps needed. They could go to the website or link to YouTube, find that tutorial, and then go through it with their student. And I just think that would be a valuable tool for even those who are not in the pilot program or those who don't have access to iPads. So there are just endless opportunities where that can occur, can be used in other areas besides flipped instruction. Another question I had for him, but he said that they had learned in their research that this kind of plays out on itself, is how do you ensure that the students are actually watching the lectures at home? I mean, just as a teacher, I can imagine being in the classroom trying to start the hands-on or the reinforcement activity, and 20% of the group be completely lost because they didn't watch the lecture the previous night before. Having taught AP-type students, I quickly understand what he meant by saying research shows that peer pressure kind of takes care of that. In other words, several of the students don't want to be left out in the dark, so they are going to go ahead and go home in the evening and watch those lectures so that they feel like a part of the community when they're in the